Well, thank you for joining me. And I want to take a minute just to introduce this fine gentleman who joins me today, one of the early adopters of ResMan. Really excited to have you here because I know it takes a lot to have that leap of faith and be an early adopter, even when the software justifies it. It still takes a leap of faith. So if you don't mind, just before we kind of get settled and have a little conversation, just for historical purposes, tell us a little bit about your company and what you've been doing in multifamily and how you got here today.
Well, thank you. And it's always an offer and a great honor to talk about who we are. First of all, my name is Dusty Wolf, as you well know. Mm-hmm. I am the CEO, president, and chairman of the board. We cut down on expenses by putting all those names on one person. The most important part is the CEO. I'm the chief entertainment officer, so this is going to be a lot of fun.
I know.
We're going to enjoy this. I have the honor to be the head of a property management company called Centra Partners. Mm-hmm. We're based in Houston. We have offices in Dallas and Fort Worth, as well as properties all over the Gulf Coast. 400 employees.
Wow.
More like 400 family members.
Yeah.
Great group of people to believe in and work with. We've had much success in the property management business. We have about 13,000 units, which, we're not a big national company, but we're a very hands-on company.
Yeah.
We like to believe that not only do we have high tech, but we have high touch.
So, I would agree with that.
So we enjoy that part. So it's been fun. We've been in business. I've been in the business for 45 years. Centra's been in business for 35 years.
Wow.
And it's a new day every day, which makes it fun.
Yeah. I bet you have a lot of good stories to tell.
We'd be a really great reality show on some station.
We all have to sign NDAs for that one.
Absolutely.
Wow. I wanted to go back just for a minute what you said about your 400 employees and just take a minute to just tell you how much I admire what you do, because I've had the good fortune to come down and work with some of your team members. Mm-hmm. We've come down for some site visits and gotten to know a few of them. And the culture that you guys have built at Centra Partners, it shows through. It shows through in the way that your team interacts with our team. If they're calling in for support or enhancement requests, any of those types of things, there's such a level of professionalism and professional courtesy. And we don't always see that in the industry, unfortunately. And I think that makes you a real special partner for us here at ResMan. And I just know that how much we all really appreciate it.
Well, we've certainly enjoyed the relationship. And this is a strange business to be in, for sure. I mean, I started this business back in the 70s. And interestingly enough, you didn't have to make money to own apartment complexes. The tax laws were different. And then all of a sudden it became very special to actually have properties that were fiscally responsible.
Oh, yeah.
And, with technology, we're able to do that more. And it's a third-party company, which is what we are. We're not owner-managers. Okay. We're a fee company.
Have you always been a fee manager?
We've always been a fee manager. And, our mantra for our clients are, we're here to make you money. Because outside of that, why are we here?
Yeah.
And to do that, our report card is what your software allows us to show our clients on how successful we are or not, and what we need to do or change.
Yeah.
So having your background and having your team, who, unlike others before you, have been adversarial, makes our jobs a lot easier.
Yeah. It's always crazy to hear you, and I agree with what you just said. It's part of why we started ResMan. Because I have been coming up through property management myself, been in what I felt were sometimes adversarial relationships with some of my software providers of different solutions. One of the things that was important to us was just if we truly believe in partnership, which we do, then we should care about your growth, not just how you use our software and how much software you're buying. Right. Because if you're expanding your business, well, coincidentally, so are we, right? So,
absolutely.
I know, I sounded so nice and sweet there for a minute, and then I went all financial on us.
No, it's the truth.
But it's the truth, though, because we're going to do it together, and it's exciting to do it together.
We're all here to make money at some level.
At the end of the day.
Make money for our clients, make money for our investors, make money for ourselves, feed our families, grow a culture, give back to the community.
Yeah, it's
important. And when you're feeling that everybody that's associated with you or everybody that supports you, be it a software company, be the dumpster provider, your insurance agent, if you feel like you're having to fight every single entity in that business, first of all, the business is not fun. Yeah. And then secondly, it's something you think that you should be doing something else about or being something else. I think one of the things about ResMan, again, going back to our other companies that we had talked to, is we would review software.
Yeah.
We have to have it. Everybody has to have software in this business. We would have a new consultant or point person, it seemed like every quarter. And part of that was, what we found out is the people in those companies were so adversarial to each other and the way they approached their business that their people were leaving.
Yeah.
And you start looking at them and going like, now if they're having that kind of issues, how are they going to benefit us? And I think that's, again, going back to what you've proven with your group, is that we may get somebody different, but it's through growth.
Yeah.
And there's a transition.
Yeah.
We would call up and say, we can't get this to work. And they're going, wait a minute, let me see who we can find them to help you with that. So it's been very, very nice.
Yeah. It's been a good run.
It's
funny for, just for me, obviously being here since the beginning and just, being on this journey with all the various customers and the early adopters. And it's exciting because I know your company's grown over the years, and seeing that growth, but also just the feedback that we continue to get from your teams, and to see how well everyone's doing. It helps drive us, and your willingness to open your doors to ResMan, whether it's to come in and visit, to share ideas. It means something, because that's how we keep true to who we are at the end of the day, which is we were built by multifamily for multifamily. We've walked in the shoes, so it's super important that as the business changes, and I think the market is changing.
Sure.
And it's funny, and I'm sure you guys deal with some of this too, but when we first went out into the market, people have their ideas about what property management software should look like and feel like. And that's pretty much shaped because there was limited options in the market for a really long time, and those legacy providers are still there. And as we started to introduce new things, new ways of doing things, that's a hurdle to get over. So I would be curious about if thinking back to when you guys were, and I know it's been a hot minute, but if you go back to when you guys were first looking at making this move to invest in something better, what were some of those struggles? How maybe did you get some of that team buy-in as you made the change? Because that's important, and I know you guys value that.
Well, I think the first thing to put a kind of cap on it, or parenthetically say what happened, we were afraid to make any change because we had made changes before. And every time we made a change, about halfway through the change, we're going like, why did we do this? And this is becoming really painful. And maybe we should have stayed with who we were with, because it's kind of like the devil you know.
Yeah.
So, and we've changed probably 3 or 4 times over the 30 years. As things got better, as properties got bigger, as we got more expensive, we've been in more markets. But when we got to the point that we think we need to look at something better, there was always that fear factor of,
the relationship baggage.
Do we really want to do this? I mean, how painful is it going to be? And sometimes the change wasn't that the technology got any better. It's just like you said, the legacy providers before, the ones we won't talk about, that we all know, they got extremely proud of a product financially, price point wise, that hadn't gotten any better. It was just the same thing, but the year changed, the model year changed, and now they wanted something more. And it's punitive, especially for companies my size. It becomes a punitive price point. So when we looked at ResMan, there was some, I wouldn't say intimidation, but reservation that anxiety that you guys talk a good talk, and we know you've got the background, and you're well-meaning, but there's this transition period. And is this going to be as unfavorable or untenable as the others have been? And I can tell you unequivocally, it was anything but that. The transition was great. You were helpful. I think we were one of your first companies to come with you, so we kind of took a leap of faith with each other. And I think the other part that was very, very positive for us is you were organic at the beginning. You're organic now. And as you were learning about your product, we were learning about your product, and we could make suggestions. And it wasn't like, oh, that was nice, we'll get around to that someday. It was like, really, that's something we should consider. And you worked on it, and probably, I would think, without exception, almost everything was corrected or added to or whatever. And if it was shelved, it was shelved for a reason. We need more people to really need that product. But we never felt that our comments or questions or desires were just being thing like, okay, tomorrow you won't remember this.
Yeah.
So the reservation was a big part, but you got us past that quickly.
It's funny. There's a I don't know if were you at NAA the year Richard Branson was there as the speaker?
They don't let me out of the office much.
I've heard that. I'm really glad that you made it out today for us. No, Richard Branson was a speaker one year at NAA, and one of the things he talked about was that, with your products or services, you really can't ever go wrong as long as you stay focused on one thing. And I think it's true for what we do, is true for what you do. And it's, what pain am I solving for? Am I making a difference for whoever's buying or using this product or service? And so that's something we hold true to this day, and we continue to push ourselves. That's why we have, we don't have contract locks. We can do via price lock, but in your contracts, you have a 90-day out. The reason we did that as founders, and I'm really proud to say that the executive team is still supporting that, is so that we hold ourselves accountable. Because if you can get out easily, then we really have to be on our game, and we have to make sure we earn your business every day in every way. And so I'm really glad to hear you say some of those things, because we're not perfect. We are going to stumble at times, and I know we have, but it's not how all businesses have their growing pains, and they stumble and occasionally. But at the end of the day, it's how you recover, and it's what you do next. And we're constantly focused on, how do we be better? How can we be better as an organization? How can we make your life better? How can we make your team's life better? How can we improve their actual individual performance as individual contributors through our software?
And that's part of it. I mean, I'm kind of the anomaly in this business. I never leased an apartment unit except for my own personal use. So I never worked on site. I was never a manager. I was never a regional manager. I didn't come up through that lineage that people most of the time go through to become
I did, That's how I came up through the industry.
So I didn't, But I came up on the executive side, and part of it is I had a background in engineering, I have a background in finance, in business. So I don't know, maybe it's the name or the voice. I kind of leapfrog, or they didn't want me on site because that would have been terrible. The idea is, I listened very carefully to my accounting staff and my regionals and my on-site staff, because even though I haven't been on that side of it, I appreciate what they do. So again, as I mentioned earlier, we have a report card. If we have to take all that data that we have and put it in a format that we translate back to a client and an owner in a form that he understands and appreciates. If my manager on site doesn't understand your program, or it's too convoluted, and she doesn't want to use it, or he, if my accounting staff can't figure it out, and they're hitting walls and backing up and losing time and performance and traction, if the regionals can't get the reports to review them, if I can't get them to my client and he doesn't understand them or wants to know why that is like it is, that whole process fails. All of it crumbles. And at the end of the day, which is why I'm the guy who gets to go to jail when nothing works right, they come to me and go, nothing's working right. Well,
you're definitely the ultimate one held accountable.
Yeah. So your process and your business has been so transparent and so accommodating that the on-site people are happy. The accountants are happy. The people who help post things with the accountants are happy. The regionals are happy. My clients are happy. Subsequently, I'm happy. It takes that kind of camaraderie and pull and traction and well wishes through all of them. And we have found that with your product, top to bottom. And anybody who would hesitate, and again, going back to hesitating, changing, if somebody was looking at this like, should we go from one of those other people to this person, and there's that pain threshold, change is difficult.
It's funny on that point, is we did a survey, and I think I might have told you about this, but we did a survey, about the market, like you're supposed to. You want to know what you're getting into, what you're coming up against. And so we hired a third party, and they did a survey of people who were utilizing ResMan, and also a lot of management companies that were not. And it was actually really shocking to me to see very transparent details about challenges that they were dealing with in their organizations, the frustrations, the pain points, the overly burdensome workflows that impact performance, which at the end of the day, we want to make sure all those people along this chain are happy and they're getting what they need. But just like you want to make sure they have the reports and they're comfortable, but you're actually held to what those reports say.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. So it's amazing to me that people are complacent, or they're so resistant to change that they in fact are being complacent with their business. And I wonder how that's a struggle we still work to overcome with our potential customers, because at the end of the day, what those reports say and what they're revealing about the asset's performance is what's most important. And it's the people that impact the asset. I mean, once you build it and you filled it and it's stabilized, it's all about the management.
Well, again, the only thing that's constant is change. And if you're in a software program now and you're not happy with it, I mean, the fear factor is the next one going to be any better? Are we going into down the rabbit hole, or should we just stay here and we kind of know what to do with this one? We can kind of make it fix. Again, all of this is a report card, and you guys have gone down sometimes. I hear the yells in the hallway. The ResMan's down, and we're like, okay, everybody start drinking. But
We'll send you a bottle of tequila.
but nothing's infallible. But again, what we have found to be so convenient and just life bearing is that you're in this with us, and you act like you're in this with us. You personally, your staffing, everybody who's part of this, you are part of what we're doing. We feel that camaraderie. We feel that, for not to be trite, we feel that family relationship. So if we're having issues, you're having issues, and you're as willing to find out what our issues are and correct them as we are wanting you to find out what they are and correct them. So it's been a really good relationship, and something we hope goes on for a long, long time.
Wow, it's going to, I assure you. Well, okay, so thinking back more specifically about how has the business changed since you've been able to utilize ResMan versus your previous software?
Well, one of the things that we've noticed, or we've enjoyed, is how you assimilate your software, especially when we are taking over a new property or transitioning.
Oh yeah.
So your team helps us in building the rent rolls and transitioning and making things come together, making fluid, GL codes, what have you. So that was something that was always, we were given it by the other group and go, you figure it out, and if you can't do it, give us a call and see if we can help you. But you step up and do that.
Yeah.
And so that's helped tremendously. The other part of it is it's such a user-friendly program. And again, I'm the guy who's not doing this, but I'm the first one to hear about it. It's such a user-friendly program that the operation of it, the implementation of it, the performance of it, the final reporting of it, the reporting package is far beyond anything we've ever dealt with, as far as ease, consistency, and accuracy.
Yeah, and I was going to say, because I think your team, if I recall correctly, they're so proficient on ResMan that you guys haven't needed to, and which is great. But you haven't bought any additional training since the original onset.
Well, and that's part of it. We actually have two ladies in our office that we are calling them our ResMan, professionals that they have learned.
Is one of them Rosie?
It is Rosie. It is Rosie. They have learned the process and the implementation so well that we've actually taken them out of what they were doing before, and they're full time working with on-site staff, hiring new people, training new people, and then going back on site and basically doing quality control, doing the checking, making sure everything's being posted correctly and testing.
So would it be fair to say then, summarizing what you just said, that thanks to the world's greatest software, that they're able to have more touch points and spend more time doing the things that matter because they're using ResMan?
Absolutely.
I know I fed that one a little bit.
No. I'm sorry that you just stopped at the world, but I'm sure it's intergalactically. But the point is, and that's why we felt so comfortable with what you're doing with implementation is why we push so hard for a commercial component.
Oh, yes.
I know we're talking about multifamily.
Yeah.
But we pushed really hard for a commercial component of ResMan because we actually had two different software platforms that we were doing on our commercial.
Yeah.
Which seemed silly for all the reasons it seemed silly.
Yeah.
And we're going so Elizabeth, that commercial idea.
We heard you.
Oh, you heard us.
Yeah. Well, and more importantly, you helped us because of us vetting through, and we came down and visit, and you shared with us. And forgive me, I can't remember the gentleman's name that I think Tina brought in the office, but kind of gave us some insight into what you were dealing with, what you were needing out of a commercial product, and that was verbatim taken back to the product team.
Yeah, that was Jerry Thompson, our commercial director.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm anxious to see what he thinks about the new commercial product.
I am too. Yeah. But it's been that kind of transition. It's been that kind of communication. So it's been instrumentation of it, implementation of it, application of it, and performance of it. I think if I was going to give you three words to say that what we've found to be really fruitful for us is that.
Oh, Thank you.
You're
You're,
welcome.
you're doing so good.
Galactically better.
Galactically better?
Galactically
I don't know if y'all caught that, but we're galactically better. Okay, so this one, I'm going to lean in towards the property because what I was starting to talk about a second ago about it's really the performance, the individual contributors that have such an impact. And in this, unfortunately, and it still rings true in multifamily, and depending on the size of the company, sometimes we don't always have the money to train like we should about running basically a multi-million-dollar business. And you have frontline associates out there who may not have had any real training on running a business, much less their software.
Sure.
But that's one of the things we really focused in on because, again, at the end of the day, every person up that chain is going to be held accountable, not for what a report format looks like, but what that report is saying. And part of our efforts and why we call our boardroom the boardroom instead of just not a dashboard, plus it's actionable, is because we wanted, everyone at the site level to move beyond I'm babysitting an asset and really buy into I'm running a multi-million-dollar asset and a multi-million-dollar business. And that means, having this awareness of every penny in, every penny out, how am I going to move the needle in different areas of the business. And if they're all thinking about it in more of a high-level executive goal, which is why we call it the boardroom, that's why we named it that way, we would be able to see better results for you and for your assets. So my question, I guess, would be back to you is from your insider, maybe what you've heard from your teams is, beyond just being ease of use, how do you think the frontline teams are utilizing ResMan and reliant on ResMan? And is that, different than it was before when you had other software?
Absolutely. And to kind of step back a little bit and going back to what your founding thoughts, when you think about the on-site staff, typically in our industry, the first person that you see is the leasing agent or assistant leasing. We give them all these titles, or chief, thought officer or whatever.
That is a new one.
A lot of these folks are coming out of high school. This is their first job. They're coming out of college. This is their first job. Maybe they had some sort of job in the retail business or food industry or something like that.
Yep.
And they've decided to take a try in the real estate market, the multifamily business, or they know somebody who's done it. It's a family, it's a mercy hiring, something like that. And they may be intelligent, talented people, but rents and prorations and data postings and whatever is not in their vocabulary.
Yeah.
It's a language. It's a process. And some of the softwares we've used in the past, the people who formatted that were smart people, but their expectation was the person at the site level should already know this. I mean, their attitude is, this is a given, you should already know this, and if you don't bother us, what are you doing in this business? Our perception has always been, is that your team, not that you're dumbing down the process, but I go back to the term being user-friendly. It's a common sense business. Your software is a common sense software. That's not to make it less exotic or exciting. It's just you hit all the buttons.
I'm proud of that. You can go with the common sense software because I love that.
It's what we do. This business is a common sense business. I have a box. I rent it to you for so much money. You get to go live in there. You stop living in there or stop paying me, I take the box away.
Yeah.
It's a really pretty commonsensical business. When you get into the eclectic side, which is what I kind of do, and you're talking about buying and selling and cap rates and internal rates of returns and all that kind of stuff, that doesn't impact the site level. It does. We tell them you need to make more money, but that doesn't impact that site level. There are different languages. There's different hierarchies, and they're all very important.
Yeah.
But your programs, as the way we apply them, and as the way the accountants take that data offsite and bring it into a financial package, is a very commonsensical progression. And I said, again, to be redundant, I'm not saying that this has been dumbed down or made easier, or anybody, a rabbit could do this, but the thought process is, how do we make this flow?
It makes sense to the task at hand.
It makes sense to this thing. And if there's an error, do we just burn it down and start all over again, or commonsensically, how do you re-engineer this thing to find out where we had an issue? And that's been part of the beauty of your programs.